Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. I'm on a roll, people. I'm on a roll. I love producing these, particularly when I've got a great topic on hand. And today is no different. I've done some really cool ones over the last couple of weeks, touching on topics. And look, if you've listened to a lot of my podcasts, you've probably heard me touch on them before. But the thing is, the reason I bring them up time and time again is because people need repetition in their life in terms of learning. That's how we learn in regards to anything. The old methodology in school way back when was parrot fashion. You'd learn through repetition and continually hearing the same thing. You'd slowly absorb that information and therefore retain it. And health and fitness is no different. When it comes to training, if you do the same thing over and over again, you get better. When it comes to nutrition, if you eat the same thing over and over again, it becomes easier. You take less pressure off yourself. Consistency is what I'm going to talk about today, and that is the overarching sort of theme of a successful health and fitness journey. And irrespective of what you're trying to do, whether you're just trying to maintain, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to build, whether you're trying to put on muscle, whether you're trying to get better at a certain athletic discipline, it doesn't matter. Consistency is what's going to keep you keeping on, but also keep you achieving great things. And I like the statement that consistency is not a feeling, it's a percentage. And that is really true, because often we hear consistency thrown around all the time, right? We hear it get sent, or spoken about all the time. But what does it actually mean? And that's what I wanted to dive into today, because it's often overlooked or not valued as importantly as it should in regards to what it represents. Now, what it represents is you doing similar things over and over again in a good way. So there's obviously, and I'll talk more specifically about health and fitness, because obviously that's the theme of this podcast. But we want to, showcase what consistency it represents. So, for example, in a week, 7-day week, okay, how do you be consistent in a 7-day week? Well, you're going to be more consistent than not. So maybe you're going to go to the gym and train 4 days out of the 7. So technically that's, over and above the 50% mark. Therefore, you're more consistent than not. 3 days you're not on, 4 days you're on. So you can look at it like that. And that's how I like to look at things, from a percentage perspective, but also number of days on, number of days off. But we need to look at it from a wider lens, because we as a society, and a lot of my clients sort of fall into this trap, is that they suffer from what I like to refer to as recency bias, where you'll look at the last week and be disappointed because maybe you didn't lose weight, or you didn't progress as well as you should have, or they'll look at the last couple of weeks. But they might have been training with me for 6 months. They don't go back any further than that. And that's where the true reflection of your journey actually is. You actually see a lot of data, and you can sort of get a really good gauge on how far you've come. A lot of people don't realise that maybe in that 6 months they've lost 8 kilos, they've improved their strength on this metric, this metric, this metric. They're moving better, they're sleeping better, their stress is managed, all these things. But because they're constantly sort of looking at the more recent data, they don't realise. So it's really important that you actually sort of break it down. And if you've been on a health and fitness journey for a long period of time, look at your data. Now, if you're not collecting data, start, because without data, you're only guessing. It's or what's the saying? If you're not tracking, you're only guessing. So it is really important to understand where you sit and how consistent you are. And the only way to determine consistency is through some information. So I want to sort of give you an indication of what a consistent year looks like. So this is a year. So this is 365 days in a year. So 60% of consistency across 365 days equals 219 days of good days, so on days. And when I say on days, this can represent you on your diet, you on your training, you on your running, irrespective of what your principal sort of goals are. So 219 days on, but 146 days off. So that is 21 weeks of missed effort. So 146 days off means 21 weeks of missed effort, so inconsistent days. So that's a lot, 21 weeks. That's 60%. If we go to 70%, that equals 255 days on and 110 days off, which is 15 weeks of missed effort. But progress starts to compound because you've gone up an extra 10%. You've gone from 60% to 70%. And therefore, you've gone from 21 weeks of missed effort to 15 weeks. So that's a big, big difference simply by increasing by 10%. Now, if we go to the next one, 80%. 80% consistency equals 292 days on, which is 73 days off. So we're getting into double digits. Previously, it was triple digits. 73 days off. That is only 10 weeks across the year of missed effort. So that would be where I'd be aiming. Like if you're not someone who wants to be super regimented and super meticulous with their approach and weighing everything and tracking everything, but you still want consistency, I'd be aiming for the 80% mark because that's the best bang for your buck. You've still got a bit of latitude, you've still got a bit of flexibility, but you're going to get results at an 80% strike rate. There's no doubt about it. But then let's just look at 90% consistency. That equals 328 days on and only 37 days off. So just over a month off, 5 weeks in fact. And that's where results will accelerate. So if you're trying to escalate your process, if you've got a big goal like a wedding or an event or a bodybuilding show or something that is really important to you, then 90% is what you want to achieve. Now granted, that's still 5 weeks off. So 5 weeks across the year can be missed, can be inconsistent, can be flexible. So that's still a substantial amount of time. It's like taking a holiday, if you work full time, generally you get 4 weeks holiday a year, right? So this is no different in terms of the statistics or the data. So it's a good way to look at things. From 60% to 90%, the 60% inconsistency was 21 weeks of missed effort. The 90% was just 5 weeks. It's a massive, massive difference. So maybe within your health and fitness regime, as it stands right now, you can find 5%, you can find 10%, and that will make a massive, massive difference. And as I say, the gap between average and elite is not huge. It's 20% more consistent. It's as simple as that. If you can increase your week, your month, your 6 months, your year by 20%, that is going to make a massive, massive difference. Now, from a week's perspective, I spoke about this at the start. Let's have a look at this from a numerical point of view. Okay, 4 sessions a week equals 57%. So 4 out of 7. 5 sessions a week, it jumps up to 71%. Okay, 6 sessions a week, and when I say sessions, it doesn't have to be 6 weight training sessions. It can be a mixture of exercise. Let's call it that. So maybe 4 days you train weights, and then 2 days you go for long walks, or you go for a run, or you do a spin class, or whatever. 6 sessions per week is 86%. All right. So most people sit at that 4 to 5 mark, and that keeps them stuck between the 60 to 70% mark, and that explains slow progress. So let's have a look, now at a good week mostly ticks with, a couple of, like if we're looking at, I'm sort of spinning my wheels here a little bit. If we look at, boxes ticked, how we often say, we've ticked that box, we've ticked that box. So let's use that analogy in this example. A good week would be, mostly we've got good ticks across the board. A good month, we've got even more with fewer missed opportunities. A good year is obviously huge in terms of the amount of ticks that you've got across the board. So obviously time gives you more, right? So within a week, if it's 4 days, great. If that's what you can achieve, that's what you can achieve. But then you span that over a month, okay? In a month, typically, there is 30 days, right? And if you're training 4 out of those 4 days out of a week across 4 weeks, that's 16 days out of 30. So you're just scraping over the 50% mark, as you can see. But if you can get it from 4 to 5, fantastic. But sometimes you might only get 4 1 week, but then you'll get 5 the next week. It doesn't have to be 4 sessions and then that's it. If you've got the opportunity to maybe do 4 1 week and 5 the next, straight away that's going to lift your percentage up and obviously lift your consistency up. So I would certainly be doing that in terms of the way I structure things. And this applies to everything that you do when it comes to health and fitness. Training sessions completed, calories or meal structure followed, daily step targets hit, sleep targets achieved, water intake met. They're all quantified in terms of a calculation or a metric that you can track, right? Training is obviously sessions, it's reps and sets and volume and load. Calories is obviously calories, macros and calories. Daily steps is obviously, a numerical value. Sleep is how many hours and how many hours of quality sleep versus how many hours of sleep. Water intake is how many liters. It's all trackable. Therefore, you can improve it. If you can't track it, you can't improve it. All right? So start measuring your consistency. Pick 3 key behaviours. Score each day out of 10. Track your weekly average. Aim for 7 to 9 out of 10 consistently, and this will make small improvements. 1% better every day equals 37% better in a year. 1%. Think of it. 1% across every single day is, well, technically it's 36.5%. Let's round up. 37% in the year, and that's just 1%. Like 1% is such an easy improvement to make when you really break it down and have a look at it, right? You know, it's a simple case of maybe going to bed half an hour earlier, or just tracking your food just that little bit tighter, drinking an extra half a litre of water, walking that extra 1,000 steps per day. Like, it's so easy to improve by 1%. So, you know, the excuses of I don't have time, or I don't get it, or I'm just plateauing, have a look at this in terms of your overall consistency and what that represents, and I guarantee you will find a way to improve. You know, it's not motivation, it's maths at the end of the day. So the next step for anyone listening to this that wants to improve, track your next 7 days, calculate that percentage, adjust one behavior, repeat it again. That's how you build results that last, okay? And that's how you can demonstrate an improvement each and every week. Now, I've done a visual of this on YouTube that you can obviously jump on and have a look at. It's called, just search consistency on my channel and you'll find it. And it gives you a visual representation of what I've just spoken about in terms of how a week looks, how a month looks, how a year looks in regards to consistency and numbers. So I think that gives you a really good comprehensive overview of what you can do to improve. You know, I get this question asked a lot. I'm plateauing, I'm not seeing results, I eat really good, I train really well, but are you being consistent? And that is obviously the question that most good coaches will ask. But then the person, the client, doesn't really understand what that means. Well, yeah, I'm being consistent, but I'm being consistent at plateauing. I'm being consistent at the result I'm currently getting. So you need to have a deeper dive into your percentages, your boxes ticked, your average sessions per week, you know, how you can improve that as I've described in this podcast, and I guarantee you will find results. There's no doubt in my mind. So look, I think I don't want to waffle with too much information, but my recommendation now is to download the transcript of this podcast, maybe drop it into chat and get the key points out so you can obviously extract that and then go about your business. Actually take action, because that's the other thing. A lot of people will listen, a lot of people will understand, but not a lot of people actually take the action and do it consistently. And again, I use that term, right? Because it's all well and good to implement it for 1 week and you might not see a result, and that's okay. But then you've got to do it for the next week, and then the next week, and then the next week. You know, you probably need a month of runs on the board for you to actually effectively feel and see some results. And then, only then, will mentally you go, okay, it's clearly working. So you've got to give it time. So take action, be consistent, and I guarantee you there will be results at the end of this, that's for sure. So look, thank you once again for tuning in. I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you are interested in any of my coaching services, obviously all these principles that I talk about in my podcast are what I coach. They're exactly what I coach. So jump on my website at paulsbodyengineering.com. You can either just go straight to contact us or review the various coaching options. And look, if it's confusing or you're just not sure, just reach out to me and I'll have a chat to you and give you some advice, free of course, in regards to what I believe is best suited to your current situation and your current goals. And with that in mind, and yeah, if there's any other topics of conversation, topics that you'd like me to cover, please just send me a DM and let me know, because I'd love to talk about things that are relevant and obviously things that are current as well. So without further ado, thank you once again. You have yourself an amazing day. And as I say to every client every single day, have a great day.